Okay, good evening. For those of you watching this on YouTube, I'm sorry that we haven't gotten last week's posted yet or that it was delayed by a week. We'll get it up there. If you weren't here to see Josh's lecture, watch Josh's lecture. Pause it, watch it once through just to get an idea, then watch it, pause it, Google, watch it, pause it, Google. I don't have a day free because of projects right now, but I expect to spend 10 to 15 hours at least doing it. And remember what Josh said. He's not an amazing programmer. He may have been lying about that. He's just a great Googler. Okay, so some announcements. One, next week the committee that is doing the exploration on whether or not we should send a team to the National AITP big national conference is reporting back. Two things with that. One, this is a training opportunity for those people to come up here and speak in front of the scary camera, to have someone asking them scary pointed questions about a business case analysis, i.e., is it worth us to send money? Well, not that scary. I mean, it's just me. And we're going to try and do more of these things so that each and every one of you at some point in time, if you're willing to pick up one of these things, can come up in front of the scary camera and practice speaking in front of people and also practice things like pitching. Hey, we think we should do this. This is how much it's going to cost us. Here's what the value added is. That's what what this thing's going to do. And so if you have questions for them, please keep them professional, but at the same time, feel free to make them pointed questions that you expect a manager to ask if you were doing the same thing. With that same thing, it costs $300 per person to register. The hotel rooms are on the order of $100, and unless we're going to skip classes on Thursday and nobody here in the IT department, in the Computer Information Systems department, really has any business skipping school on Thursday the week before finals, we're going to be there for at least 3 nights of hotel rooms, so it's going to be about $600 a head. If there's a recommendation to send people to this where there's value added, we're probably going to be pitching fundraising ideas or collecting fundraising ideas next week. So be ready for Brittany to have a brainstorming session on the whiteboard of, hey, what are we going to do to raise this money? And I had an announcement for what next week's lecture is, but I'm not sure if that has changed. Looking at someone in particular, is the subject for next week's lecture going to have to change, or are we still on track for programming homework and workshops?
Should be able to. I've already looked into it a bit. I need to do a couple more things, select a couple of, I got a bunch of projects I need to kind of weed them out a bit, but should be right on track for that.
Okay, where last week's programming demonstration was at the postgraduate level, starting at the training wheels level, next week's programming lecture will be more at the what we actually can do level. With bring your laptop, because it'll probably be, hey, code this, or homework of, hey, code this. And we may get an email out ahead of time with, try this. See if you can code these projects and bring stuff in, if you have time to do additional coding. Oh, computer is complaining, and I may switch over a different computer for that. Just a second. Okay. So, yes, you're looking at my laptop here. Now that we've gone over the resident business, here's what we're actually going to go over tonight. Because, yes, you need another partition on your computer. So by a show of hands, how many people here have set up a separate partition on their computer? Okay, that is less than half. I'm surprised. If you are still using Windows 7 and you've actually gotten into doing stuff with the Microsoft Development Club, you already have to do this so you can install Windows 8 unless you're going to upgrade to Windows 8, which I'm going to do after I actually know how to use Windows 8. So right now I have 2 volumes here, my C volume, which is Windows 7, and my W volume, which is Windows 8, though when I boot it in Windows 8, it shows it as the C volume. Just a little fun and... Okay, showing you how to get here for... Well, before we go into that, let's talk about why we're doing this. What we've said we're going to study for is the Microsoft Certified Solutions Associate. Used to be called Microsoft Certified System Administrator. This is 3 exams, and basically it means that you know how to manage servers in an internet service provider or in a WAN environment, and this could be from the small business to the enterprise level. The current exam that's available is for Microsoft 2012, or at least the exam we're going to take will be for Microsoft 2012 because you can't download Microsoft Server 2008 through DreamSpark anymore. I'm not sure, I didn't double check today whether or not you can download Microsoft Server 2008 through TechNet. Does anyone here know what TechNet is? Okay, that's one hand. If you're going to do IT stuff professionally, I don't know if Microsoft has changed the rules on what you can and can't download with your $165 a year. It is well worth paying $165 a year to be able to download a bunch of stuff, use it in a testing environment. You don't install it on your computer, actually use, but you install it on your computer to test it in your lab before you set it live on your network or on your home lab, because you probably have a few extra computers at home, or eventually will, as you do this more and more, and you throw stuff on there to see if it works, see if you want to work with it in whatever environment you're working on. But what we're going to go over today is how to set up a partition, because the first one of these exams is Windows Exam 70 TAC 410, Installing Microsoft Server 2012. Now, scratch your head a little bit and wonder why is there a $100 exam on how to install Windows? Because it gets complicated. We're going to do this, you're going to end up installing and uninstalling server a lot of times. I haven't done it yet. I'm setting up a new partition to do it. We're going to be doing this together. I am not a server admin. I've told them what to do before, but I'm not an expert in this field. So we're going to figure it out. that being said, you're going to need a partition for a place to install Windows Server. So we're going to go over how to do that, and then we're going to look at the exam below the MCSA. I forget what it's called, the MTA for server. There's a study guide that comes from Microsoft with a bunch of multiple guesses, and we're going to play quiz time with these questions. Some of them are good, some of them aren't. And also I'll show you a couple of the resources you may want to look at picking up to study for MCSA, or some of the resources that I'm planning on picking up at some point in time. But the books are generally $30 to $50 a pop. So, oh, and we're going to look at Microsoft Virtual Academy, where they have free courses to do this stuff as long as you're willing to spend the time to do web-based training. And I've spent a little bit of time on there, not as much as I'd like to. Projects are being heavy, so it looks like it's very good quality training. Microsoft has every reason to make it good quality training because things look better for them when the people that are certified know what they're doing, and when you can get certified without buying something from somebody who's not Microsoft. Questions? Okay. So, the first thing, making a partition. I'm assuming that you're all in Windows 7, and if you're not, that you can figure out how to. If you're not, Google it. But, okay, you go to Control Panel. And just ignore for now this thing running in the background over here, Perfect Disk, though we're going to talk to that in a little bit. Control Panel, type in hard drive in the search bar. You will have right here come up, create and format hard disk partitions. And my computer is a little bit straining right now because there's a couple other things going on it. So it's going to come up and it's going to give you a list of all the logical volumes that your hard drive has been subdivided into. You're going to look at, you will probably have at least 3 of these. I have to do some more research about my recovery and system to see if I can get rid of one of those.
You can get rid of the recovery, but then the recovery, but then you can reinstall without the disk.
I will probably do that after I take a recovery snapshot on an external then. You're going to go into your primary drive, which will have the most space, and you're going to go right-click on it, and you're going to go shrink volume. And this little thing is going to pop up, and it's going to say, figuring out how much space you have to shrink it. Now, something that will probably happen is that the amount that you can shrink. I am not closing JGrasp. I have debugging going on, and I'm stopped at a breakpoint. Anyways, you're going to query for your shrink space, and calling to your attention, because I did this before we started. My C drive has 383 gigabytes. It has 154 gigabytes free. Okay, and it crashed. That works. What can I close to not have this again? No, good enough. Okay, so what happened when I did this, it came back and it said it could only shrink the hard drive by 8 gigabytes. Because that's where this thing comes up. you'll defrag your hard drive, you'll come back to it, and it won't tell you that you can do it right. Or it'll still tell you that you only have a small amount because your master file table will probably be somewhere down here, and your master file table is unmovable. Then that's where we start getting into different software. Perfect Disk is the only one I was able to find when doing this to install my Windows 8 partition, because I ran into the same problem when I did that. And if I will try and get a link out to where that is, but if you're on the Microsoft developers group as well, it's already in Spence's post about, it's linked from his post about how to install Windows 8 to a partition. Or you just search Perfect Disk, download their 30-day trial, because it will move the master file table when it defrags. You just select, when you're doing defrag, the option Prep for Shrink, which is what I currently have running, causing everything else to crash. Usually when you defrag, couple rules. These may seem like no-duh rules if you haven't played with it before. One, close everything else. Defragging is moving all your files around and getting all the books organized on the bookshelf. Two, plug your laptop in. Don't defrag on battery. Or don't defrag on battery unless you're willing to ruin your hard drive or know that you're going from one place to another place. Actually, no. Do as I say, not as I have done. Don't defrag on battery. When you know enough about defrag to defrag on battery, you'll know that you don't want to do that unless you absolutely have to. Okay, that said, we're going to let this run in background, and I'm going to switch which monitor we're on. Or you do this, you run Perfect Disk as a defrag to shrink. You're going to want something on the order of 40 gigabytes. When you pull up the Microsoft page for what the minimum size to install Server 2012 is, in the background. Oh, there it is. I can only shrink my hard drive by 8 gigabytes. And it has 130 gigabytes free. Because, okay, to draw you a picture, think of it as a bookshelf. I've got books. Here's my bookshelf. I've got books down here at the bottom right. I want to take this bottom bookshelf and say it's a different bookshelf. But until I take these books off of it, I can't say that's a separate bookshelf. Does that picture make sense to everybody? Okay. So, Perfect Disk is what I'm using right now to move the book back up to the top of the bookshelf. And that is what this picture means. Because there's stuff right here. This stuff here at the bottom is preventing us from saying, cut this bottom part off and make another hard drive. And this, we may come back to that later if that tells us it's done. After you do that, it's simply, you do the shrink operation, and we'll just shrink this so you can see what you do. So we're going to shrink the C drive by 8 gigabytes. And I think we're going to come back to that too later. Yes. And we're going to switch to a different machine and go over the stuff for MTA, which is the level of certification below Microsoft Certified Solution Associate. So we're going over Microsoft Technology Associate. Fortunately, this means I can't. Okay. Actually, before we go into this, I can't Mac yet, but I'm learning.
Need help?
I might. Okay. Microsoft Virtual Academy. Show of hands this time. How many of you have signed up for a Microsoft Virtual Academy account? Okay, that's low. If you're actually going to try and do these Microsoft Certified Solution Administrator, step 1, sign up for a Microsoft Virtual Academy account. Step 2, find everything with the word server in it. Add it to your learning plan. Step 3, start chugging through the material. That being said, you want to start at basics and go from there. Some of them are ridiculous PDFs to skim. Some of them aren't. Step 4, which does cost something. We go look for a book to buy. I am probably going to end up buying this one. Though the R2 exam has come out, the R2 exam is the patches that they've put into Microsoft Server 2012. So this won't be fully up to date, and the new edition that covers R2 comes out in September. However, I have had a good experience with these guys. Also, while you Google for these things, you may find some resources of dubious copyright legality. I won't tell you the website. I won't encourage you to download them. I would encourage you, if you download them and use them as a resource, buy them, please, after you get the cert, before you get the cert, something, so that we be good members of the community. That's all I'll say on that. Oh, that worked a lot faster than I thought it was going to on this slow thing. We're going to hop back for a second before we may be able to finish showing how to set up a extra partition. Even though it's going to be a measly 8 gigabyte one that I'm going to have to expand afterwards. Or just to actually install something. Is everybody keeping up with me on this whole partition stuff? Okay. So, what I had said was shrink my C drive by 8 gigabytes. Obviously, when we look at this, we realize this is not to scale. Because here's my 375 gigabyte partition. Here's my 18 gigabyte recovery partition. Here's my 100 megabyte system something partition. Now, I really need to go and read some of the stuff on Microsoft, figure out what that is. And here's my 63 gigabyte Windows 8.1 partition. And here's my 8 gigabytes that I just freed up. And we're going to say create new logical volume. So we just right click on this and we say new simple volume. So we're going to make a new simple volume that's 8 gig big. And we're going to give it the letter S because it's going to be the server volume. It's going to be NTFS and yep, finish. And I cannot create a new volume in this unallocated space because the disk already contains the maximum number of partitions, which I thought it was going to be the case. So, I'm going to end up later taking one of these, taking it away after I do a little bit of research and merging one of these partitions with this 8 gig free. And after I've talked with some of you who are a little bit more techie than I am, I may be able to tell you if you already have 3 partitions with Windows 7, which one you can afford to get rid of. As you heard Matt and I talking, I'm probably going to get rid of this, my recovery partition.
You'll need G
Does everybody say again?
You'll need G-partition for that.
Okay, so I have some Googling to do on how to do this. And the big picture on this is I'm going to give up a little bit of safety so I can triple boot my laptop. Now, at the same time, I have a stack of external hard drives about this big at home that I can send an image of my laptop to so that I have recoveries, and I just have to put that on my chore list at something of a higher priority than cleaning my pool, which is green right now. I wish I hadn't said that because my parents are probably going to end up watching this. Okay, so going back to the other one and going into something where I'm a little bit more interactive so that I don't feel like you're just staring at me and bored. We're going to start asking ourselves questions about the Microsoft Technology Associate to see how much we know about working on with servers. And we're going to be and these are the review questions for the entry-level server tech, i.e. the guy who goes around and puts out the new computers. So I expect the lab assistants to at least be able to answer some of these. And I will point and make fun of them afterwards if they can't. But we won't point the camera at them or make fun of them during this. Though I went through this earlier a little bit, and some of these were surprising for me. And also, fair warning, a lot of these are Microsoft solution biased. So, actually I haven't bought a practice test for this yet. Okay, some of you are giving me blank stares when I say buy a practice test. This is big business. These certifications are often the difference between having a job and not having a job, or getting hired and not getting hired for these jobs. That was an ah. Okay. In the job where I've done this on a server floor, if we hired someone, they had 6 months to get their credentials. If they didn't get their credentials after 6 months, goodbye. You know, put out a new advertisement for the position and go through the gruesomely long HR process again. Or maybe give them a negative evaluation. But the government will have been complete within their rights to say, okay, we hired you on the condition that you get qualified within 6 months. You didn't qualify. Sorry. Go brush up your resume. So there are places where you can, I was looking at last night, you can buy a 30-day, a 60-day, or a download license, and each one is more expensive for interactive practice tests that are created by experts, not the company that's selling it, but there's a link to it on the Microsoft page for the test. So, and I have a 22-page document to send out to you guys. It's not really 22 pages, it's big font that I copied right off the website of here's what the test is testing you on. The first one is how to install Microsoft Server 2012. And yes, once again, that doesn't sound so hard, except we don't really think about what different ways do you configure servers to provide the necessary services, which is going to be one of the sections of what we're going to go over. As soon as I pull that up again. Let's see. Is it 65 or 66? Or we'll do 50. Okay. And I will also email out to you these self-quiz things because they have some great explanations of the Microsoft Certification Career Path. What we're looking at right now is the review sheet for Windows Server Administrator Fundamentals, exam 98-365. What we're planning on practicing for is the 70, 410, 411, 412 exam series for Microsoft Certified Solution Associate. We may go over the 72-640. I'm not sure what that is. It's something in between entry level and server administrator. I haven't run across that label before, but they talk about what the jobs are that they have certs for. Oops, wrong one. We're in networking fundamentals. Might do that next night because you need to know networking fundamentals enough to understand some of the OSI model to do server. So yes, I have at least 3 of these self-quiz lectures in a can. Or you guys can read them yourself. 365. Okay. So, section 1, understanding server installation. Okay, scenario. So all of these questions, as we go through it, they're scenario-based. I'm going to gloss over the scenario and try not to read off the slides too much. For the game, we're either going to have people shout out answers, or if I don't get shout out answers, I'm going to pull you on the multiple guess. Everybody understand? Okay, so Maurice is a network administrator for a small business. He's planning to image and roll out a workstation, and he's having problems with the video display. The display worked when he first set up the system. After applying several system and driver updates, the video has degraded to VGA, and performance sucks. This He knows that he can't give this to a customer. He's also having problems with the firewall service for Windows Server 2008 R2. Oh, okay. The MTA level exam is on Server 2008. It's not on Server 2012. They don't have a 2012 version of the MTA yet. Like I said, you can't download 2008 through DreamSpark. You can only download 2012. They are close enough, except where, but the exam we're actually going to take, or we're actually studying for long term, is 2012. The overarching architecture is the same. 2012 brings a lot of simplification, some of the installation points, and it brings a lot of virtualization capabilities, which we'll cover later. So, first question is, okay, well, excuse me, the other part of the question. He's having trouble with the firewall service. The service fails to start when he starts up the server. He can start it manually after he logs in. He doesn't want to manually start the firewall every time because humans forget to do things. And he doesn't want to have to do that every time he does server maintenance because that's the only time servers are turned off. After you do server, you turn them off to do server maintenance and you start it back up. You're usually rushed while you're doing this. And he realizes that he'll be in big trouble if he doesn't secure the web server by forgetting to turn on the firewall server, which is why he doesn't want to have to turn on the firewall service when he manually boots it back up. So, what's probably the problem with the video? A, wrong video driver. B, incompatible or corrupted video driver. C, video adapter is not properly seated on the system board.
B.
B, wrong video driver? Or excuse me, incompatible or corrupted video driver. I'm seeing at least 3 people shaking their heads in the up and down direction. Yes. So our answer is B. Next slide has answers to these. We'll check ourselves. So, question 1B. Where should Maurice check to verify he has the proper driver installed? Oh, this seems to imply that that was the right answer. If you ever are so lucky on an exam to have questions all around one scenario, bounce them off each other. Make sure your answers are consistent. A, the event viewer. B, the disk manager. C, the device manager.
C.
C, the device manager. I think most of us have actually gone and looked at that device, the disk manager we just looked at. What can Maurice do with the web service to ensure that it will start up after the other system services finish their startup? Okay, the answers are A, configure a delayed startup for the web service through the services.msc. B, write a batch program to start the service as a scheduled task. C, configure the service to restart after first failure.
B.
Okay, B.
C.
C. Okay, so show of hands. A, configure delayed service through services.msc. No votes. B, write a batch program to start the service as a scheduled task. 2 votes. People aren't very sure. 3 votes because someone actually shouted it out but didn't raise their hand on it. C, configure the service to restart after first failure. 3 votes. Oh, 4 votes. Somebody changed their vote. Okay, right answer is A. Okay? So Microsoft has something to turn on services so you can schedule it. Kind of the way you have your start menu programs, the programs that are loaded up on start on your own laptop. You can do that with a server. So that the server turns on and then it starts to run certain services. Because those are programs where it provides something to all the users. Okay. Checking ourselves. 1, B, we got that right. 2, C, we got that right. 3, A, we didn't get that right. And so we've got some notes on what these words mean. And then we have some links on this PDF to go look at this. So we got 2 out of 3 on this one. Can somebody be scorekeeper? Matt, you're scorekeeper? We got 2 out of 3 so far. Okay, understanding server installation. Okay, Pat was tasked on Thursday to set up 10 servers and 20 workstations. Pat has weekend plans to go to a concert with his friends, and he has tickets. If he sets each one up individually, he won't make it to the concert on Sunday. He doesn't want to do that. He knows that the company uses Windows copyright deployment services whenever a new workstation or server is rolled out, aka the gold disk for the workstation. Pat would like to automate these installations with as little human interaction as possible. What can Pat do and make sure he makes it to the weekend, makes it to the concert this weekend? Okay, you already read them? Okay, A, start his installations manually. B, create one copy. Well, we're just going to skip that answer. Create one completed installation, set up and configuration of a server and a workstation, and use those 2 copies to image the remaining systems using Windows deployment services and ImageX. Sell his tickets to his buddy. It's not going to happen. Yes, B is the right answer. It's what I'm going to do with my laptop. I'm going to image my laptop. I may not be able to use that Windows deployment solution. I may be able to since I'm going to have a copy of Windows Server installed. I'll take that as a lookup, and I'll get back within a month on that. Okay, what is ImageX? Yet again, a question that tells us what the right answer to the first question was. A, a picture editing utility. B, a personal image enhancement service. So it's C, a service imaging software that takes a snapshot of an existing configuration server or workstation and creates image or clone versions of the system and saves it to file. What can Pat use to solve the latest part of his problem, what can Pat use to solve the last part of his problem, which requires as little human interaction as possible? Because you still have to do all of those selections and stuff, because he has to go through the advanced options when he installs it. Have a robot do the installation. Use Windows Systems Image Manager to create an answer that will automatically provide the answer to the setup questions throughout installation, as well as configuration, and install any necessary software during the installation. Seems likely. Create a DVD that will contain all of the necessary software that will be installed on the servers and workstations. I see someone going, why? Because that would be very painful to do. Because then you would have to sit there and install, confirm, install it into My Documents, or excuse me, install into Program Files x86. Yes, I want that tree. Yes, I want a desktop icon for each and every program or service and utility. Or B, the computer do that for you. So we want to learn how to use that, and we probably need to do that to practice doing that for our MCSA later. So that's something we're going to want to look at more. And yes, we got those. Hey, a device driver.
Did you go
Yeah,
back?
going,
You went
I think
back.
I went in the wrong
You
direction.
went back.
Yep.
There you go.
Wrong arrow. Okay, so an unintended installation, exactly what it says on the tin. An answer file. Read this definition. I'm going to send this out in email to you guys. And then we have, because I just said I'm going to want to learn more about this so we can figure out how to do this and set it up. Here's the places to go look on TechNet for the professional articles to do this. Okay, understanding server roles. I see some people, sorry, I wins. Okay, and the topics for this are identifying application servers. So can somebody tell me what an example of an application server is? I've said it about every time I've gotten up here when I talk about servers, at least once. Bueller? Okay, the Exchange server, i.e. your email server, is an application server. It's something not on your computer. Now, most of us here, I know from just doing the mailing list, use Gmail. Guess what? Gmail is this huge application server in the cloud, or network of application servers, really, that hold your email. Exchange is something like that at a smaller level or a bigger level, at a lot bigger level these days, because small businesses can just buy a piece of Exchange server. I think it's something like $10 a month, monthly user or something. Or it may be $10 a year. I don't know. I don't keep up on Microsoft Office that much. Understanding web services. So we're going to talk about that too. Things like domain name service server or your web server. Because somewhere when you type into www.blah into your browser, you're first going to a server on your network, and then it's going out into the web. This is why we need to know some of the network stuff. Understanding remote access. If you are an administrator, you want remote access. A great example, the enterprise network I worked at. One island, only 30 miles long. 29 different locations at 10 different WAN locations, about the size of this college campus. There were only 30 or 40 techs. If they had to go out and physically do something at the person's computer, that would have been, every time something bad happened, that would have been bad. It's much better if they can send their air-conditioned office and, okay, let me call you up. All right, can I take control of your desktop? Understanding file and print services. Aside from the fact that you have to slide a card to authenticate that you paid for it here, that's pretty much what we use here, print services. We have a lot of trouble with that happening in the lab right now. It doesn't, some problems with the bad image. Oh, wait, we were just talking about images. Understanding server virtualization. This is big business today. This is what the cloud is. We'll talk about this some and more as time goes on. Okay, so name is a system administrator for a company. She needs to develop a system to design so her company can use an email messaging system that allows for messaging and calendar collaboration. This company uses Microsoft Office 2010 as their mainline Office production suite. Her company wants a collaboration server for the internet. The collaboration server should support dynamic updating from employees. These officers would like to have the intranet, i.e. just the company network, monitored and protected with threat management solutions. So this is a little bit of marketing questions. Or what would Carrie's best solution be for their messaging service? A, third-party email provider. B, Microsoft Exchange Server 2010. C, not recommend any solution because of potential loss of production with an email messaging system. B. I love Exchange, I hate Exchange. You will love and hate Exchange too as you deal with it more, especially when we start talking about PSTs, because you will have office rats like me who will go through 100 megabytes every 4 hours of work. It gets silly these days. What can meet the needs of the company for a collaboration server? A, implementing SharePoint Portal Server 2010, which uses Microsoft SQL as an option to support dynamic updating. Oh wait, there's a keyword tricky phrase there. SQL. SQL. If you don't take the database class here, learn SQL anyways. How many people saw at least, okay, quick aside review from the career fair. How many companies do you remember that was asking for people who program in Java? No, this is not a rock concert. Here's my single flame. There was one company that was asking for Java. Our local Fortune 500 company, CSX, natively does everything in Java, or a lot of stuff in Java. How many people did you see asking for C#.NET? More than you could shake a stick at? How many people did you see asking for SQL database stuff? A lot. I saw at least half dozen. I told one group of people, I don't know SQL. I would love to have an entry-level SQL internship with you to learn SQL. I don't care if they're paying on that one. Databases are big money. Data is big money today. It's why Google is ruling the internet. Okay, off my soapbox, back to questions. B, solicit bids from various web developers. C, create a Microsoft Word document and send the link throughout the company and call it their message board. Yep, everybody knows SharePoint, right answer. So SharePoint's a collaboration environment where you can put something on a web page and other people can edit it. Everybody has, well, it's kind of like Blackboard, but it works a little. I wouldn't say it works. I've had good and bad experiences with SharePoint. The military is a big fan of SharePoint. We're a big fan of text SharePoint because we're usually doing things through data straws instead of data pipes sometimes. Okay, was the best fit to meet the company's needs so they can manage their employees' internet access through Active Directory. Ooh, that's another keyword tricky phrase we're going to deal with a lot, Active Directory, because that's how you manage users. So A, have all employees sign a usage contract and document the sites they visit. Okay, let's just say wasted productivity, and go to the next one. Recommend Microsoft Threat Management Gateway. Okay, there's our right answer with the Microsoft product, which provides integration with Microsoft Forefront Antiviral and can grant or deny various types of internet behavior, either by the username or group. So, we'll let the managers actually go to YouTube on the assumption that they're only going to YouTube to stuff like this and not watching funny cat videos. And then we'll block Facebook and YouTube for everybody else. Or we'll do that for the power users. But hey, we can set up, if you've just been in the company for you're in your first year in the company, we're going to turn off Facebook, we're going to turn off YouTube for you. That's one of the ways we're going to do it. Don't try and mouse with the Mac. Or at least I can't Mac yet. Okay, so this was the marketing question. So Exchange, SharePoint, Threat Management Gateway. Active Directory, keyword tricky phrase. SharePoint, probably something you haven't heard of yet, worth learning about. Stuff to learn about it on. Okay, now we get to some real questions. Okay, server administrator. Actually, let's just go to the questions. Or, no, you need the scenario. Server administrator for a toy company have been contacted to provide them with security information regarding, so the security department is coming to the administrator saying, I need your security information on which servers are exposed to the web. I.e., you got one side that's the guys who run the servers, and then the next shop over are the guys who run the firewall. The guys who run the servers talk to the guys who run the firewall and say, I need these ports open so that I can do this, this, and this. The guys who run the firewall open those ports. And then they run a patch and it closes those ports and things go down. And then they reopen those ports. Or some new security policy comes out and this new port gets closed and somebody goes, why did my stuff stop working? And yes, everybody has some type of firewall on your computer. There are firewalls that cost $2 million. Or something on that order. I may be off by one order of magnitude. I know somebody should look at the price of a G2 Sidewinder firewall just to try and call bullshit on me. Pardon my language. Alicia wants all transactions to the storefront on their web server. Okay. Alicia tells them that 3 servers require perimeter access. First, the internet server, which is running SharePoint, and will need SSL access so that the salesman who's out in the field can get back to the company intranet. Second server is the company's web server, running the company's website. That needs to go out into the internet so that customers can come buy the toys. And customer transactions have to be secure in some fashion. And their web developers also request FTP access to the web server so they can upload and download updated content. order of magnitude,
Yeah,
200,000?
I'm not sure exact. There's a number of different models of this, but this one is, yeah, 70 grand.
Last time I was dealing with that was 3 or 4 years ago, so I could see the price
I
going
mean,
down
you
that
can
much.
lease it for $2,000 a month.
Wow. And it is a full-time job managing those.
It's got 4 million concurrent sessions.
Yes, because hey, we're talking about running things at large scales. When you're managing servers, I was working with a small ISP. We only have about 3,000 users. Big enterprise ISP, okay, so the security people have asked for the ports Lisa wants available to the internet server running Microsoft SharePoint. What port does she need for SharePoint? And this is, everybody gets the dumb look in their eyes, and this is where we bring up ports and protocols. Protocols usually have a port associated with them. If you're going to deal with servers, or be a network admin, or pass the networks class, you probably should memorize at least the first 3 dozen most common ports and protocols. You should know what port Telnet is on. You should know what port SSH is on. You should know what port HTTPS is on. Telnet's 25. I don't remember the other 2 off the top of my head. But these are things that you need to know. And also when you start playing with things like Wireshark to learn what's going on a network, never use Wireshark for a man in the middle, please. I do not advocate hacking. But you can learn a lot just from looking at what's going on the network. Just sitting there running it at a Starbucks to see what people are sending out. And I know there's people who do that. One of them taught me how to use a little bit of the program, but I have a lot more to learn. Okay. So, Mulligan, what server for SharePoint? Or excuse me, what port for SharePoint? And we're going to the next one.
It's either A or B, and I'm going to go with B.
Why is it either A or B?
Because AD is HTTP.
Okay, right. Lower ports, more common protocols. SharePoint, something else. So, 443, how many people? I'm not voting, I'm just, okay, so 2 for 443, 445, how many people? 4? Okay, so the vote is for 445. Okay, wants all transactions to the storefront on their web server to be encrypted. What security protocol encrypts web traffic? Secure Socket Layer, aka SSL. Point-to-point tunneling protocol, PPTP. Or Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. We'll throw that one out. We're smart enough not to get caught by that one. So, SSL or PPTP?
SSL.
Okay. And everybody knows this because of go to fail. Oh, and yes, it's right there in the scenario. PPTP is a transport layer protocol. You use that routing within your network or in background. You don't use that point to point. Okay, i.e. you do it between switches or to hide VLANs. What does, I think, I'm not very technical on that one yet. What is FTP and what ports does it communicate on? Okay, that's
I think this would be what is
Yes.
FTP?
What is FTP? What does it do? Okay, so A, FTP is File Transfer Protocol, a fast application level protocol widely used for copying application level? We'll come back to that. Application level protocol widely used for copying files to and from remote computer systems on network using TC/IP, such as Internet. It communicates on ports 20 and 21. FTP is File Tuning Package, which tunes the file package and communicates on port 3399. FTP is a proprietary file protocol that only allows the transmission of encrypted files to and from remote systems and uses port 20. So, votes for A. Okay, that's over half the group, so our vote is A. Yes. Okay, 443, you were right. Secure, the group was not. SSL, group got it right. FTP, gimme. Going back, application layer. Application layer, this refers to a model. Does anyone here know what that model is?
Well, there's a number of models.
Okay. What's the most common one?
TCP.
Okay, the 5-layer TCP model, and the one that we're probably going to run into if we get far enough on this is the 7-layer OSI model. Ideas of how to think about going from the layer of the physical connection to transferring files and everything in between. I'm not sure if I think Microsoft uses the 7-layer OSI model. If not, both are useful to know.
Yeah,
And
the OSI is a theoretical model. Problem is there's like 2 layers that no one has ever implemented, so...
Yeah, TCP/IP is practical.
Yeah.
Okay, understand remote access. Yeah, we're going to skip this one other than you need remote access to be able to fix things for your customers if you're a server administrator. Alternately, as a system administrator, you're going to want to have remote access to the server. And your boss is going to tell you, no. Security won't allow it. It would violate our security things because, hey, that means any schmo, if he can crack your password and whatever other authentication method we use, he can be you. It'd be nice to be able to have you turn the BlackBerry server back on from home after it crashes. Oh wait, guys, talk about something not Microsoft. But, and you'll have, wait, no, because that was a Microsoft primarily enterprise server, but if all your executives have BlackBerries as opposed to Windows phones, then you're going to have a BES, a BlackBerry Enterprise Server. Yep. Military background. It crashed every Saturday for some reason. Or
Because that's when everyone actually uses them.
I would get a phone call at 7 in the morning from the guy who owned the phone company anytime he woke up and didn't have, actually before 7. If he didn't have 24 emails since when he had gone to bed, he'd call and say, hey, the BES crashed. And he'd be right. Okay, because those people just have way too many emails going on. Okay, so you're going to want to have remote access. You're going to want to use the tools that Microsoft gives you to do that. And they're on a port. RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol, is a Microsoft port. or a Microsoft protocol. And it's on port 3389. Okay, so to provide access, to provide access for traveling salesmen, you can give them a VPN tunnel into the network. And enable remote assistance so that you don't have to fly a tech out when a guy's pitching something and his laptop crashes. Instead, you take over his laptop after he dials into the VPN or plugs into the VPN. Oh, look, here's how to do it. File and print services. What time is it? Okay. We could go through, this is 60 pages and we're on page 19. Okay, so since this is the hardcore people here who actually showed up while midterms are going on and everything, do we want to, I know how hard it is for me to get time to prep for this. Would you prefer to have this emailed out to you and assume that you read the next 40 pages? Or do we want to go into this next time skipping over, do we want to do this again? Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you will have time to actually read this document?
Better question, how many people will take the time?
How many people will make the time to read this document? Okay, I've got 1 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10%. We'll pick back up from here. I'm not going to read the scenarios next time because that'll save us some time. I'm going to assume you at least skim in enough to read the scenarios. So how are we scoring so far?
Oh, 7 out of 9, is that passing?
7 out of 9. I don't know. I haven't taken a Microsoft Cert test yet. And realize half those questions were the use the Microsoft solution questions. And this is the entry-level WebMonkey exam. This is not the Microsoft Server Administrator exam. Because the exam we're studying for is the exam to be Mr. Sneddon, i.e. Larry, god of the local network. Okay, it's been good, it's been fun. Remember, next week, we're probably going to have, we're going to have a presentation about whether or not, if we should go to the National Association thing. To do that, the people who go should be dues-paying members of the National Association. I haven't gotten an email in the last 2 weeks that anybody's joined. I know who in the room are dues-paying members, because when you become a dues-paying member, I get an email. You can do that too, because it's just a checkbox. When somebody else joins, please. And then once we have that and we toss all of our nasty pointed questions at those people so that they get their professional speaking opportunity and a chance to be intimidated by questions from a room, then we're going to talk about whether or not we want to do it, which will probably give us something of a price tag. So then we're going to brainstorm ways to raise money to do that. So bring ideas. What do you want to do? What do you think we should do? I will not sit in a dunking booth.
Aww.
Dr. Martin might though.
We need Martin and Dr.
That, we could raise so much money doing that.
To me or to Dr. Martin?
Martin.
He might, but it needs to get a little bit warmer. I think we'd have to get him as a member. We could ask Dr. Roy if he'd be willing to sit in a dunking booth, maybe.
We want Martin.
Okay. That being said, what was the other thing? And bring your laptops for next week because Evan's probably going to have programming stuff for us to try and do.
Yep.
All right. Thanks. Night.
Good night.